Hello, chaps. Welcome back. We are live on the Next Generation Role Model Show. My name's Victoriasummer. I'm your host. And today, I'm very excited to have a special guest today chatting with me. His name is Elliott Hasler, and he is the youngest UK film director. And I'm quite excited because we've had so many actors and performers on the show. We actually haven't had someone who is a director on the show. Now, obviously, Elliott is also an actor and a writer, and he also edits his films. And I did notice, Elliott, you're also director of photography. So he is super multi-talented, but he has obviously the big vision of a director, which I'm very excited to talk to him about today. Welcome on the show, Elliott.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're very excited.
Quite
I
nice
want to
be
know
first
when.
as well.
What's that?
Quite nice to be a first as well, the first director you've had. I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, we've only actually been going for a few months on this show.
Okay.
This show got started in the lockdown. This was my little lockdown idea, which came to fruition during that time. So, yeah, we've probably had about 40 guests on the show so far. But definitely excited to talk to somebody on the other side of the camera as well. You have experience, as I said, on both, but I am interested in your journey as an artist. When you first knew, oh, I want to direct.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of about 10 years old when I first kind of got into filmmaking and stuff. There was this project at my primary school where they took a week off and made this little short version of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia thing. So that was kind of my first experience with making a film, and yeah, I was kind of hooked from that really, and then carried on making films. They kind of got bigger and better, and then when I was 14, I decided to make the feature you were talking about, World War II, The Long Road Home.
Yeah, and we're going to chat quite a bit about the long walk home, because now did you say the long road home?
The Long Road Home, yeah.
Because it was called the long walk home. Was it?
I don't think so. No, I mean, originally it was called Charlie's Letters, but the title got changed to The Long Road Home afterwards. But
Okay, yeah. Okay, good. The Long Road Home. Okay, yeah. Brilliant. Previously, Charlie's Letters. When did you change the title, Elliott?
The title only got changed this year, actually. That was something that was sort of out of my control, but yeah, I'm perfectly happy with the new title.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm also interested in when you knew that you also wanted to act in your films too, because it's one thing being a director, but being an actor is completely different. Tell me about your journey into acting as well.
My journey into acting. Oh, right. I don't consider myself a particularly good actor, and I probably won't take on a role like that again. Well, I'm certainly not in my next film. So that was more sort of born out of necessity, because I started it at 14. So finding people who are sort of willing to be actors and things in your movie at that age is kind of difficult, which is fair enough, because I mean, it's such a tough thing to break into, so they don't really want to jeopardize their careers by what would probably most likely be kind of a crappy movie really. But so I'm really grateful to the actors that did help out, but just out of necessity I kind of had to act in that one myself.
I see. Okay, fair enough. Now, when you say the actors helped out, did you therefore give them no budget at all in terms of a salary, or did you give them back end? How did that work?
Well, I mean, the film was literally made for no budget, so there were no sort of professional acts in it. We used like local amateur actors and things who sort of wanted to help out and build their own kind of profiles and things like that. So that's sort of how we went about that one.
Okay, understood. All right. Well, obviously you're building up a fan base, of people who see you. You obviously have a great publicist. You're taking interviews. You have this new film that you're working on, which I also want to talk to you about. So I'm interested to know, in terms of your career, you'll want to use your platform for obviously more than just being creative and directing films. Like, what do you want to use your films to say?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. A good question. I think each film would sort of be different in what it's trying to say, because obviously my first film sort of showed kind of the horrors of war and kind of a loss of innocence and all that kind of thing. And obviously my second film is about the First English Woman is from the Channel, so it's about kind of this woman who's fighting against prejudice and things like that, and a kind of battle against nature. But then actually going back to it, that sort of battle against nature is something that I always kind of have within my films. It's kind of a theme that I quite like, sort of man versus nature type of thing. But in terms of what they actually say, I mean, I don't think I'm really the person to answer that question. I think it's really up to the viewer and what they kind of make of the movie. And if I can inspire them and, or change the point of view about something, however small in kind of whatever way, then I think I've sort of succeeded in my job.
And is it in your heart that you just want to tell stories? Is that how you feel, just in terms of a director? You're in love with telling stories?
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly, really. Yeah, I have no, I have no set genre. Like, I only want to make war movies. It's nothing like that at all. It's, if the story's really good, then I'm going to be attracted to that project, and hopefully my story will then go on and inspire other people.
Absolutely, yeah. So talking about The Long Road Home and talking about stories, I just want to let the viewers know who haven't seen the film and perhaps don't know Elliott very well, that it's actually the story of his great-grandfather, which obviously must be so close to you and your family. Can you just elaborate a bit on how that felt to recreate a story through which obviously your own family has been through?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people ask me this, and I think they're always a bit disappointed with the answer, because I was always kind of disconnected from him and his story in a way while I was making it, which I know sounds weird, but I think because I was acting in it and I was behind the camera and everything like that, I couldn't really be too emotionally invested in the movie, because I had to kind of make that vision come alive and, in a practical sense. So I couldn't really be married to like the exact history of it and things like that. So I think I did have to sort of detach myself in a way in order to make the film, sort of how I ended up making it. So yeah, I never really had that kind of strong connection, which is why I don't think I'm a particularly good actor, because I think if I was, then I would have been a much sort of, there would have been a much stronger connection making it to the between me and him, I think.
Now that's really interesting you say that, because that's obviously your viewpoint of yourself, but I actually watched that and thought, wow, he's actually a really good actor.
Oh, thanks.
Now that's interesting, and that's coming from an actor, and I was actually really impressed, because obviously it's a big deal, the fact that you wrote this at 14. Now, when you wrote this film, did you write it because you knew you were going to direct it?
Yeah, I think that was sort of how the writing kind of came about. I'd never written a script before that, but I mean, as a young director starting out, I think you kind of have to write material for yourself to direct, really. So that was sort of how that one came about.
Yeah, but it's amazing that the first thing you ever wrote, which you wanted to direct, actually came to...
Sorry, you've frozen now. I missed that last question.
Elliott, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Just
Me neither. I don't know what happened there either, and I'm hoping that we're still live streaming. I think we are.
it does that on my screen. Yeah.
I've never had that happen in the middle of an interview before.
No, yeah.
That was so weird. Anyway, we're back. And I was just chatting to you just regarding the fact that obviously you did this as a writer initially at 14 years old, and you finished the film at 16. And now you're going on, which is amazing. It's amazing that you actually got your first script, you wrote it, you got it produced, and you made it happen, which is a really great quality. Because as I was saying, you know, people want to do things all the time, but they often get lost along the way. So that's obviously really exciting. Let's talk a little bit about promotion, because I know you're obviously doing promotion, not only obviously for this film, but also your next film. Can you just talk to me a bit about social media and how you're going to use that to help you in your career?
Yeah, I'm not really that much of a sort of, you know, I'm that much of a whiz, I guess, with social media. I mean, that sounds like an old man saying it like that, but yeah, I've well, of course we have to use social media and things, and it's been fantastic for you know, publicizing the film and things like that. I mean, obviously this interview is kind of a testament to that, I suppose. But yeah, I think especially because I'm so young, obviously, like using Instagram and things like that is a brilliant way to kind of publicize my film and get it out there. And we've had some fantastic connections through social media and people, you know, becoming interested with the film and getting on board and stuff. There was actually a really nice story with this new film that I'm doing about the woman who swam the channel. So the lifeguard we have on the film, he came out with us when we were shooting one day and said that he'd met this woman while he was working who she'd heard about the film on social media, and she decided to take up swimming because she was so inspired by the story. So I think that's a really nice kind of story about it.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's a great way to show how you can make an impact through social media, because the outreach can be as huge as that, and even to inspire and obviously to change other people's lives, which is, I'm sure, is a great feeling for you.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the film's not even out yet, and it's really kind of been inspired by it. So yeah, I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Let's talk a little bit, because we have a lot of people who watch this show who are really just wanting to inspire others as a goal for themselves, you know, and want to help inspire the next generation. And I'm wanting to know what your advice would be for others who are starting out thinking, well, I have a story to tell. How do I would like to direct it. I could star in it. Tell me what advice you would give them.
Just pick up a camera and go and direct it. I think that's like the ultimate piece of advice I could give, because I mean, that's how I started. I think you really just need to, you know, if you have that story there, then just go out there and make the film in whatever way you can, whatever story you can tell. I think as long as you made something, then you've got your foot in the door, and that beats 90% of people that, you know, they say they want to make something and never get around to doing it.
Yeah, and I'm also interested to know that where you were on location for the long road home, because I noticed you're from Brighton,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I did the musical Brighton Rock at the Almeida Theatre in London, and I went to Brighton. I've been there several times, and actually I went there during lockdown, interestingly enough, to go to the beach. And I noticed that obviously you did a lot of filming in your hometown, but you also traveled to do the filming. Can you talk a little bit more about the locations?
Yes, the locations, we shot in quite a few different places for that, actually. So I think there was Turkey, France, and a little bit in Italy as well. And that sort of came about because it took me 3 years to make the film in total. So I sort of just went on holiday with my family, but at the time we were making it. So I just bring, you know, one of the costumes and the camera and things like that, and we just sort of shoot based around, you know, where we were on holiday and things like that. That's sort of how that all came about.
Okay, because I did wonder, because I was like, wow, you had so many different locations that you went to, and it was a completely micro budget, and all your cast did it for you as a favor. So I was just very interested in that. So that's incredible. You brought the costumes with you on family holidays.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really incredible. Okay.
Well, sort of resourcefulness that, you know, that filmmakers kind of need to have, because then you get these beautiful shots, but you know, without spending millions flying everybody out to remote locations.
Absolutely, yeah. And so now that obviously that film has come out, The Long Road Home has come out, you're working on your next film, that's not out yet. But tell me about agents and managers. Did you get interest from your first film?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, that was sort of the reason for making the film, I suppose, in a way, to sort of help me, you know, kind of make my own way sort of through the industry and things like that. So yeah, it sort of worked in that objective, as you know, getting people on board with me and my vision and things like that. So yeah, it's made the next one really easy to kind of, well, easier. I say really easy, but it's made it easier to, you know, kind of get that one started and everything, having had that kind of reel to show in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you get an agent, a manager, or did you get both?
I don't have an agent actually at the moment, but I have a manager who kind of sorts things out and things for me. So yeah.
Okay, so you went for the manager rather than both. So you
Yeah.
have a manager who looks after you now.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Because a lot of kids, they don't know whether to get a manager or an agent, which is the reason I'm asking you, because it helps people, because it can be confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite confusing, really. I mean, there's not much sort of distinction between the two roles in a way, but then, yeah, I don't know. It is quite a confusing kind of minefield to navigate, I think.
Yeah, I think it is, which is part of the reason, you know, we have this show. And also I think as well, a lot of artists like yourself, they have big ideas and they have big visions and they're able to carry through and get something done. But then they find that they receive peer pressure and negativity from other people. I'm very interested to hear whether you've had any of that and how you cope with that.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a bit of it. I mean, the most people have been, you know, really great, and it's been overwhelmingly positive. But you're always going to get people that you know, kind of put you down or whatever, have a negative view on things. But it's not something that really that really bothers me, to be honest, because you got 90% of people saying you succeeded and 10% say you didn't. So I mean, listen to the 90.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you deal with it. You just let it go off your shoulders and don't listen.
Yeah, pretty much. I get quite amused by it, some of the comments that are left and stuff. I mean, I don't look at them, but occasionally my dad will like read them out or something. Yeah, I actually find them quite amusing. So I think that's kind of the best way to go about it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So let's talk about you. So you wrote your first film at 14 years old. I'm just going to give the timeline. You finished your first film at 16. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, you're 19.
20 now.
You're 20 now. Okay. So, and by the way, you're the oldest person we've had on this show.
Oh, am I? That's a first. I'm normally the youngest person on everything.
Yeah, it's interesting because our guests have been literally, I think, from about 5 years old till, I think the oldest person might have been 17 or 18 or maybe 16, something like that, But my question is, you're now 20. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time at 30 years old?
Ooh, I don't like to put too many sort of predictions in and kind of be like a fortune teller, but I mean, hopefully, you know, sort of where I am, making movies and things like that, like bigger budgets and everything. Yeah, so sort of in Hollywood, hopefully.
Ah, okay. So your sights are set on Hollywood, ideally.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if that's kind of the avenue to get the films that I want to tell, if that's where I'm going to get them made, then yeah, I'll go there.
Okay, great, good. All right, and let's talk a little bit about Rejection. Not so much as a director, it's a little different, but you obviously need to pitch. It's not like you attend auditions like an actor, because like you said, you're mainly directing now and writing, but you obviously have to pitch your ideas to people. Tell me a little bit about Rejection and how much rejection did you go through before you were able to get your film made?
Very little, actually, because I mean, there was none really, because I just sort of went about it myself, and it was always my view that I was going to make that film regardless of sort of, you know, who it was with. There was no real rejection, and there hasn't been in terms of getting my stories told. I mean, I'd say there is still rejection, but it comes in sort of the form of people who don't want to be involved really, but the film's going to go ahead regardless of their involvement or not.
Yeah, okay. So the rejection would mainly come from people who perhaps you wanted to work with who were too busy or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, or who didn't want to be in it for whatever reason. But yeah, that kind of thing is more sort of the rejection that I faced personally. Yeah.
It's interesting that you had a very strong mindset that you were just going to make the film anyway, that it didn't matter to you. So I can tell that you're obviously very driven.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, yeah. I guess that's kind of paid off with the movies that I've made and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about being a role model, because this show is all about setting a great example, inspiring others, which clearly you do. Even with your first film, you've obviously now with your second film inspired somebody to swim, and it's not even out yet. So I'm quite interested to watch, how much inspiration people are going to get, as your career continues to go on and your storytelling continues to escalate, which I'm excited about. Let's talk about being a role model specifically and what a leader means to you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally, I would never set out, with just the intention of, oh, I want to be a role model. I think that'd be kind of narcissistic of me in a way. But I mean, if the things that I do, if people are inspired by them, then that's a great thing, and if people do look up to me as kind of a role model kind of figure that they aspire to kind of be like and do similar things to, then yeah, I mean, I think that's a really great thing. But I would never set out, personally, I wouldn't do things based on, wanting people to admire me.
No, but you almost come across self-deprecating, Elliot, which is very British of you.
Yeah.
But I have to just remind you that you are the UK's youngest film director right now. So you have to understand your current title, and the fact that you already have a film out. You're already onto your next film,
Yeah.
and you've only really just obviously turned 20. And this is obviously very exciting. And obviously from now on, people are watching you, and you are going to be a role model for people, because people just don't, that's just not very normal, just so you know.
Yeah. But for me, it is. That's why I could probably kind of a bit nonchalant about it. But yeah, something I guess it isn't.
Yeah, and people are really going to look up to you, which is brilliant, and it's really exciting. Let's talk a little bit about school, because you were 14, you were writing The Long Road Home. It was all about your family and their story and so on. But how did other kids react to you at school? Maybe when they were 16, your film came out and you were like, "Oh, you've made a whole movie during this time." Tell me about their reaction.
Yeah. I mean, in that first one, a lot of my friends from school and stuff were sort of in it, playing like extras in the background, and they still are actually in the new one. I still wrote my friends in, to fill it out in the background and stuff. So yeah, I mean, they've always been very supportive, and they came along to the screenings and stuff afterwards, and I think they were all sort of blown away, really, sort of at how it looked, because they were kind of expecting this really kind of ropey, one man with a camera kind of shaky kind of image. But yeah, I think they were really sort of impressed with what they actually saw in the end.
Good. It's great to have great people around you that are supportive. Definitely helps you along. Okay, so let's talk about role models. I'm definitely interested to know, who is your role model? And if you met them, what would you do with them?
Ooh, I'd say I sort of have two main role models, really. I'd say the first one would be David Lean, who director of sort of Lawrence of Arabia and Dr. Zhivago and all those epics from the 1960s. I'd say he would be, in terms of directing, my sort of main inspiration and influence and all that kind of thing. Those are the movies that really grabbed me, those big sweeping epics. What would I do with him? I don't know. I think I'd like to invite him along on a shoot and kind of see what he'd do. Although having said that, maybe I wouldn't, because it might be that would be a hell of a lot of pressure, David Lean on set with you. But yeah, and the other role model I'd have to say would be Johnny Depp, because those I mean, those pirate movies as a kid, I was obsessed with those. They were kind of my favorite film for quite a while. So I'd say without him, I probably would never have really become a filmmaker, I guess, having not been inspired by those movies when I was younger. And yeah, I guess the same thing. I mean, I'd like to work with him, so I'd get him along as an actor if that ever became a possibility.
Okay, so for one of your films, you definitely know that you want to work with Johnny Depp. He's your man.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. Yeah, if the opportunity ever arose.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, great. Let's talk about charities.
Mm-hmm.
What charity do you support and why? Because on the Next Generation Role Model show, I chat to everybody about giving back. And obviously, part of being a role model is knowing that they want to help others specifically. So let's talk about your causes and the charities you support.
Yeah, so I mean, with each of the films, we kind of did things with charities that were kind of connected to the storyline and things like that. So for World War II, The Long Road Home, we did some stuff with like special forces charities and like that, like Help for Heroes and that kind of thing. So sort of donated some money there and stuff. And we did a screening for some veterans actually in Southampton, which was a really sort of, you know, it was a really nice thing to do. It was very sort of, well, yeah, I mean, it was great to see that their reactions to the movie, having, because they fought in sort of the same battles and things like that. So that was a really great experience. And then on this next one, we're sort of going for more sort of environmental charities and things like that, because it's obviously about swimming in the ocean, and the oceans are so under threat at the moment. So on the film, we follow this environmental impact initiative thing, which it limits the amount of plastic that we use on set and all kind of things like that. So we can kind of help out, you know, helping with the environment as we make the movie, because obviously films can be really detrimental to that. There's a lot of wastes and a lot of single-use plastic and stuff that's used on movies. So if we can kind of cut down on that, you know, make our own little impact in that way, then I mean, I think that would be a great thing.
I agree completely. I agree. That's a wonderful way to contribute. That's great. So can you just to finish off, could you tell us where people can watch The Long Road Home?
Yeah, so The Long Road Home is being released this October on either the 25th or the 26th. I should know the answer to that, but it's one of those dates. So that's going to be it'll be available to buy on DVD on Amazon, and also to rent through Sky Box Office, iTunes, and at HMV. And I think it's also across sort of most UK supermarkets on DVD as well.
Excellent. And at the same time, by the way, Elliott has also graduated from Exeter University.
Almost. I've got one more year.
Oh, you've got one more year. Okay, good. You're almost there. One more year at Exeter. Oh, and by the way, the certificate of The Long Road Home is 15. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Certificate 15. I think it has about a 90-minute running time. Is that right?
Yeah, 90 minutes.
Okay, very good. And just to finish off, what's the name of your next film? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, the next film is called Vindication Swim, and that's it's a biopic about Mercedes Gleitz, who was the first English woman to swim the English Channel back in 1927.
I love it that you're making a biopic, Elliott. Any ideas on an Oscar?
I don't want to jinx anything, so I think we'll leave that question there. I don't know.
Obviously superstitious in some way, Elliott.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so where can people find you? Please give us your website or social media handles.
Yeah, so my production company is called Relsar Productions, which is Hasler spelt backwards, by the way. And then they could follow me personally, Elliott Hasler on Instagram or whatever. So yeah, and through Relsar.
There you go. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for being on the show. It was really nice to meet you. I'm very excited to watch your next film.
Oh, great.